All right, let's switch over. What's up, my dudes? Wow, I had a hat on all day, and you can tell. Got some hat hair. I'm gonna bring this down some. You guys can see this poor beat up case all coming apart here. We're gonna get into this in a minute. Check out what's going on here. Had a mining rig shipped to me for me to evaluate on. The shipping got destroyed. It was friends that was shipping to somebody else, and it looked like it got dropped off the back of a truck and like folded the hole. This thing is just like broke the rivets. So in today's stream, we're going to go through it real quick and see what works, what doesn't, and probably take everything apart, put some of the components in another mining rig. But I'm going to tell you right now, it looks like the power supplies are done. A couple of the GPUs are pretty messed up. I mean, it literally looks, I mean, the box didn't look healthy either. But I'm sitting here going through this tonight. I wasn't going to do a stream. We had a produced video that I got to work on. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go live stream with you guys, because as I'm going through this and testing it, it's a good thing to, especially for people that are recapture, you know, like if they're trying to fire up an old rig and it's not working, we can kind of find out what's going on. So was it thrown around? Yeah, I don't know. It was shipped, and I guess it was dropped from a very large height or something, because it is beyond jacked. I got stuff over there, but you guys can kind of see the casing here. Let me bring this up. We should tell which company handled the rig. This came from UPS. So this was UPS shipping it. I mean, you can see this is supposed to be straight. Like, you can see like all the rivet points are been kind of jacked. Let's see if I can slide this down this way. Like it's had some serious issues. I mean, it looked like it impacted on this corner and just started to fold down. The problem is the rails in here have like smashed the power supply. And I'll show you guys what one of the GPUs look like here in a second. Because it got, like, when it landed, it looked like it crashed one of the GPUs. Let's see if you guys can see this and hear me. This was the scraping that was happening with, I think it's missing some of the spots there. And it broke the riser off of it right there. You can see that scrape right there. Like the riser was broken in half. That's how hard it impacted. That'll, yeah. So that's some of the issue there. Of course, it was, this. Oh, hello. Refocus. Oh, man, I'm out of focus, my dudes. How you doing? All right, I think it's good now. All right. So that's one of the GPUs of a few. A few of the other ones have like their, I don't know if you guys can tell this, but it pushed all these plates down because it kind of compressed everything in this rig. So everything kind of was compressed down. None of these plates are broke on these GPUs, but it definitely bent the heck out of all these frames, these GPUs. But I was going to tear everything down tonight and just take it apart and test all the components. I'm probably going to write up. So I'm going to write up the report for UPS on this. I'm probably going to write it up as pretty close to a total loss, just because with the GPUs and the way were compressed, and I'll flip this around here so you guys can see. Muted it. There we go. You guys there? There we go. We're back. That was my fault. Oh, it's showing me levels now. I'm back on. Somebody goes, Vanessa, save us. Vanessa's operating, not from here tonight. I started too late for her. So, yeah. So tonight, that's a sport thing. That's the thumbnail. Is that poor rig. Somebody wants some cheap GPUs, right? Yeah, I'm gonna bring this back down for you guys can see me. Lightly used, not dropped or anything. They look good. All right. I'm unplugging things here. I need to move this out of my way. Yeah, so this was like a rapid, breakup here. So I'm going to take the motherboard off. It looks like the motherboard may have been damaged on this too, because a few of the screw points have been popped out, which for you to take out a screw point on this forcefully is not normally a good thing in any capacity. So I don't know what I do with my screwdriver here, but the motherboard to come off, the USB stick for whatever reason, was still left in there. And I don't know if you guys can see that. Pass the USB stick. I think she's dead, Jim. Rip. Here is the way all the GPUs look. Let's see if we get a good angle on this. There you go. So the plates are bent. It's kind of shifted this over. At least one of them have the display port broke, ripped off the GPU because it was one of the farther ones down here on the end was compressed a little too much. But I mean, I'll test each of the GPUs. These are GPUs that I wouldn't try to resell, honestly, just because I don't know if there's any other kind of lasting issue with it. I mean, by and large, you could probably run them, but I mean, I would think that something that took this violent of a hit to rip the rivets out of this would not be something I would try to resell in any capacity. But I mean, you might be able to recover it and just run it until it's dead. Could be a thing. Like if you already owned it, like if it fell off its shelf. I mean, I've had people send me videos, or not videos, but they've sent me questions where like their metal racks that they've had have collapsed. Like people put too much weight on them. You know, they buy the cheap ones from Walmart, and they've had their entire mining rig collapse, and it might have 4 or 5 GPUs, and then it just they got to it within minutes of it falling, and then we're trying to power everything off, and had broken fans and that kind of stuff. And I mean, I've helped people get replacement parts for that kind of stuff, and they just kind of had to deal with it. They tried to recover what they could, fix whatever superficial components that were broken. The GPUs worked pretty fine, but this looked like it took a pretty good plunge. So I'm taking the motherboard off right now to see if we can boot that up separately, and then we'll grab some risers and just test some of the GPUs independently, see if we have any broken fans, any of that kind of thing. So I like doing it like kind of one component at a time, just to see what we're having issues with, because you could try to just rebuild the rig in a new case and hope that everything works fine. But then the moment you start having problems, you're right back to square one of like, okay, what's my problem? Is it a broken thing on the motherboard? Is there a connector that's loose? Is it a riser? What is it? So anybody that's not familiar with GPU mining, you have, a motherboard, you have power supply concerns. Most of the time it's a riser, like a broken end on a riser, something to that effect. These power supplies took a big hit. So like inside here, when I pull one of these power supplies out, you'll see the damage that the power supply took from like the case kind of collapsing in on it and compressing the power supply. And it's on the side where the main board is on the power supply. Now that's something I don't even really feel comfortable with even trying to fire up, because the internal parts of the power supply have been compromised, and you could have like a broken capacitor. I mean, it's just anything that's really feeding the power, you don't want to risk that. It actually broke these screws, I think. This is not wanting to turn appropriately. Might have bent the screw. That power supply, let's check this one. So this particular rig had 2 power supplies in it. This was a 8X RX 580 8 gig GPU mining rig. So The 580s, when you have 8 of them in there, unless you have a pretty powerful power supply, like a 1600 watt power supply would actually suffice. But this one actually had a 850 and a 1000 watt power supply, and this rig under full tilt would be about 1100 watts on most algorithms. So yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna pull the power supplies. I'm not gonna run them, and then we'll pull this rig down, and then we'll bring another fresh rig over, and we'll just try a couple GPUs at a time just to see if they boot up and what kind of problems we're running into. I'm assuming a couple of those fans are smoked, just because the way it bent the GPU, it looks like the fans are rubbing into the fairing of the GPU shroud. Let me get a better screwdriver here. 1 second. To go to a much bigger screwdriver because this has gotten pretty jacked up. Just hopped on. What happened? This was a rig that was a friend had sold to somebody, had shipped it through UPS, and evidently there was an issue with the shipping and it fell off. Or was the assumption is that it fell off a truck or was dropped from a pretty large height because it bent the crap out. I mean, this is a pretty sturdy frame, the handles and stuff. I mean, for it to collapse the whole rig down, it took a pretty big hit. I mean, I've seen some of the 6-card GPU mining rig frames that we built, and they're pretty resilient, especially if you use the thicker angled aluminum. They're actually pretty stout. This one really messed up. I haven't done a live stream with a mining rig with you guys in a long time. You know, with the inability to get GPUs right now without overspending for them. It's just content that I really haven't had with you guys because it's kind of not the time to buy. As folks start to look at their particular situations, and it's not as lucrative as it was for some folks. You'll start to see GPU pricing come down. And then once folks have lost their kind of appetite for that, and it's just not at the time level of, you know, the amount of time you're spending on maintaining a rig and moving the rig to different coins and stuff, people kind of get bored with it. That's what I've found over the years. And some folks just they're just not patient with the crypto market, so then they'll get rid of their GPUs really cheap, and you'll have that kind of opportunity cost of being able to get some better deals on GPUs. I would think that we're about 6 months out from that, from like a full recovery, at least to retail pricing. And then you'll see some of the 6 gig GPUs and stuff falling off here soon. As people are thinking that it's got rolled off the back of a truck. Sure feels like that, doesn't it? I'm just disassembling everything right now. I don't have the second camera up to show you guys the close-up of this teardown, but I'll take a quick poll here. Would you guys like to see with it? I mean, if I go to rebuild this one into a proper rig after I test everything, would you guys want to see a live stream of that? Like cradle to grave, fresh build, getting the miner set up and all that kind of stuff? Would that be interesting to you guys? I mean, to some of you folks that are not miners that just want to see how that functions. I haven't made a video like that in a minute. All right, we're gonna take these old ones with some, pulling the risers back through to get them undone. Yeah, if you guys are not following, we're going to be doing some giveaway of some shirts here coming up as we're switching some of the materials and the provider that's going to be able to service some of our orders for the shirts and stuff. We're gonna get some new stuff in. We're gonna be giving a lot of those away on some of the live streams. All right, we're almost apart here, guys, where I can get the other. I'm gonna spin this around real quick. And then we'll take a visual inspection of all the parts. Oh my gosh. This thing just came apart on me. Hold on. Like an entire disaster going on. So unattach that. This. I think it got moved around a lot this weekend. We have a funny video coming up. There we go. So some of the folks that helped me out around the property got a hold of my setup here and made some videos just being funny with crypto stuff like Dogecoin to the moon and all that kind of fun stuff. They left me a funny video and we're going to splice it into one of our other videos. And just some younger Snapchatters getting a hold of my BBP studio setup. All right, let's rotate this bad boy here. This one doesn't look like it's in too bad a shape. This is a 850 RGB power supply. Okay. Then we got the 1,000-watt thermal take in here, which did look like it took a brunt of the hit. Oh yeah, that thing's wrecked. Here, well, I'll bring it over here for you guys can see it. Oh yeah, something hit it hard right there. Did the crap. And remember the finger on this side. And it's just that's where the main. So I don't know. And it started to fold that side up too, the whole casing. So again, I mean, it could be just a superficial hit, but I mean, like it have to be separately tested, and I mean, like I'm gonna have to open that up, inspect to make sure the main board on that didn't get crushed or anything. You never know when something takes a violent hit like that in some way, like it was shipped and just bent to crap. I'm gonna bring this over now that all the stuff's over, so you guys can see this case up more closely here. So you can see the rivet points there. So these are supposed to be like that. And those two are down. And bent it back here and on the other side too. Yeah, it just got beat to crap. Eyes all bent. So yeah, I mean, there's. Oh man, this thing just slid off again. I'm gonna have to get a better one of these. Not. There we go. I try to bend it the right way. That's what makes it. I think it was turned around. So motherboard wise, so the motherboard was popped off on two of the screws on one side. Doesn't look like it. It might have just broke the tower strut that it was setting in. So this was a Prime Z270AR motherboard. So that's kind of the old greatness motherboard from the 2016 era, 2016, 2017. I think I made some of my videos right there at 2017. This has got a 39, I want to say a 3920 Celeron in it, maybe, or an i3, one of the two, like the i3 6100. This is an 1150 motherboard, 4 gigs of RAM in it, and we'll see if that functions. Some of the older version 6 risers. These are some of my favorite risers. They just function. It was like the first gen or the second gen 6-pin ones on the back. And you can definitely tell that these things have had some age. Carter, it looks like everything's falling apart. Yeah, that's part of this is me. So I had a lot of folks over here this weekend, and folks were kind of in here in the studio checking stuff out, and just they were moving a lot of this stuff around. I have some funny videos of a few of them playing around with the studio, making funny videos that they left on here for me. And so yeah, things are kind of all over right now. Nice, Andy. How's it going? So yeah, there's gonna be new risers used here. I mean, you can see some of the age on these. Look at these risers. It's a little discolored. Definitely had some heat running through that one. You can see the discoloration there. So folks ask when we start to replace them out at the farm, it's the same thing. This is stuff we're looking for. Where you see some just some heat fatigue on the 6-pin there. This is a perfect example of some heat fatigue on the 6-pin. Where it starts to discolor it. You know, here's a newer one. This is a that had been replaced. So you can see the color difference. So the kind of newer one versus the older one. Let me get all this focus on this. Focus, 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 focus. Autofocus. Not focusing. There it is. Now you guys can see the difference. You guys see the difference of heat fatigue? If you have risers at home, that I would replace them personal. That starts to show kind of the fatiguing of that. Your 6-pins is the way we don't see them, or whether or not showing that kind of damage. That's just constant voltage, 24/7, 365 running on them. And these things are bent to crapping back. And for the folks that missed it earlier, I'll show this real quick one more time. You guys can see the damage there in that one. So the riser was broken. This one. This one took the brunt of the hit. I think we got some damaged pins here. So that one will definitely be tested separately. And then we'll get these over here. GPUrisers.com sent me some a while back. We'll try a fresh version of theirs. We'll get the test inch up here and just see if they boot up. So the motherboard will be separately tested. Get the riser plugged in. Chest pinch will bring it up a little so you guys can see this. More GPU shortage due to UPS. Yes, let's test. Yeah, that one of those capacitors did look like it was popped in the back of that Sapphire. At least. It looked like so part of the railing that came down scraped down the whole side of that, the back side of that Sapphire GPU. Plug this guy in here. Fresh new riser. Straight 6-pin in with the PCIe from the power supply here. I mean, I've had some very, very basic questions lately with a lot of the new folks getting in and not even realizing they could be using the 6 pins from their power supplies for these risers. Thinking they had to have something else. 6 pins work fine. So here's a first GPU. These are 588 gigs. You have a single 8-pin in the back. And let's get this thing plugged in. Get some power to it. This way. Here. Guys, where you guys can see a screen. Now, what's going to be funny is there's going to be a whole bunch of comments on this video like, dude, why is this video so long? What are you doing? I want the TLDR. And we will give you guys a TLDR version of this. So one of the edits that Vanessa will do for you is just cut, and then we'll give you guys that can't make it the whole way what all worked and what didn't. All right, that's all done. Need some network. That one here. And we get the keyboard mouse that we're turning this one on. We'll do our first test. And okay. Which gets moved around a lot around here. I'll turn it on for right now. Let this machine hasn't been booted in a minute. Where is it? There it is. Well, it lights up and the fans are spinning. That's a good sign. Don't know where the mouse is. There it is. It's under everything. Let's see. I don't even know if this thing is actually running. Switch over to the screen. Oh, you see it. It's all green, but that could be the capture card. Oh, that's Windows wanting to do Windows related things. No, bro. All right, let's get this one on so I can see the same screen that you guys see close to me, and I'll turn on my little video down here so you guys can see me. Hide this one. Oh. That one. Okay. Let's go here. CMI. No, I can't see it, but that screen's not working for me. And that is way too small for me. 1 second. We're just seeing if it reads the GPU, because right now it's plugged into this MSI GPU. It might be trying to install something too, because this machine hasn't been booted in a minute. It looks like it sees it. And I don't see any exclamation points. So it looks like we have a good GPU. Nice. Now, I haven't updated any miners on this in a while. My first step, though, is just making sure they post. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the good pile. And then I'm going to put this in a mining rig. And then we'll do the mining tests separately, not in like some Windows computer. Switch back to this. And Windows is probably doing some kind of update. Let's go, it posted. So what do we think? Should we try the Sapphire next? Let's try the Sapphire next. That one, the one that looked the most jacked. All right. What's the over/under on this working? That's the 8 pin in the back. Now, some of you guys saw how jacked up this Sapphire is. It's for science. Well, if it sparks it, it'd be one hell of a video. All right, do I want to be... What part will catch fire? Probably the back. All right, here we go. Well, it lit up the top of it. Fans are moving. Oh, we got a green screen. This thing definitely took a scratch across the back, like across those capacitors. Oh, what's that doing? 1 second. Maybe it's setting it up. We do have an exclamation point here. Is this a code 43? Okay, so it might have some damage, but let's see if we can fix this code 43. So if you get a code 43, we can usually do a pixel patcher. Let me see if I have it on this computer. All right. Rules. So that is 19-ish. So sometimes you'll get flashing. I saw somebody saying that you have to wait for flash. Mark's talking about it, but usually that'll happen pretty quick, right when it's first booting up, as it's launching the driver in the same way the MSI did when it went from the green screen, which is like the base driver, and it goes and switches. We weren't really getting any flash, and it was setting on a code 43. So what that usually means, if you guys buy an aftermarket GPU and you get a code 43, there is a chance that, especially the RX series, that somebody had modified the BIOS, which this more than likely, being that this is an RX 480 8 gig, has a modified BIOS. And it's a non-signed BIOS, so you're going to get an error. that pixel patcher there just does a driver signing and then kind of gets around that issue and accepts the fact that that's a thing. So the pixel patcher is installed. Let's and has signed that driver. Let's see if we get back and don't have a code 43. All right, we're back up. Let's check and see if we got rid of the code 43. We still have the code 43. So we can let it set here for a second. There is a chance that this this is part of its issue, is that this GPU is dead. Now, obviously, we'll test this outside of Windows. I'll test this also in Linux just to see. And there is a BIOS switch on this too. But this could be part of the damage. Sometimes when you've had like physically damaged GPUs, sometimes they'll boot and they'll give you a display, but they have something else going on with them. Bro, I don't want to install this right now. Get away. It could also be the driver that we have installed is sketch and is like not compatible with the old RX 480. Most of their suite drivers, because I don't remember which driver set we have on here. This might be the older blockchain drivers too on this test build. We'll see if we can get it installed. Brad's asking if my promo code for the miners disrupt is still good. It should be for down in Miami. Can you do a video on showing us how to modify the BIOS? Well, so Richard, a lot of the BIOS editing anymore, you really don't need to do because a lot of the miners already take effectively with while we're waiting for this, I'll explain this real quick. This is a good point. And we'll have to do some on the edits, Vanessa, as you're tracking this, we'll want to capture this part as a specific thing. So a lot of what was going on when you would modify the RX series graphics cards from the R9 and the RX series graphics cards from AMD, when you were updating the BIOSes on them, you're effectively changing the memory timing. And you were changing in them where you had taken certain settings and optimized settings and you had applied those as for the particular type of memory that was in there. So if you had Micron memory or Hynix or Samsung memory, there's 4 different types of memory settings in there. And you optimized the particular BIOSes for the particular types of memory that you had for the particular amount of graphics card memory. So you would have like Sapphire Micron memory that was for 4 gig, and the Sapphire Micron memory with the 8 gig might have completely different timings and speeds. So you had to have different BIOSes. Most of all of those databases for those 4 different types of memory with their appropriated timings were set up in a graphics database essentially from a lot of these miners now. So like when you're using like Team Red Miner, there's a handful of the other miners that you use. They actually now will do a memory injection of those particular timings, so you don't have to do the BIOS mod. So you're actually getting the optimized timings now just as part of the mining thing. So long story short, Road, I wanted to give you some history on it, but you don't necessarily need to do the timing anymore, especially on like the Linux side where it's really optimized to where it's going to use the latest timings for the particular GPUs. But you may get into a situation where you buy an aftermarket GPU and you're going to get a code 43 and you're like, what the hell's going on if you're trying to use it in Windows? And doing that pixel patcher signing, the driver signing, will then get rid of that code 43 for you most of the time. You could also have like a bad riser. Like this could be a goofy riser. I mean, it did work with the other GPU. Let's go here and look. Yeah, that's fine. It's just saying that it installed the right one for it. There's still a good chance that we could have something physically wrong with this GPU. There's also a BIOS switch on this one, so I could switch to a different BIOS to just see if that's what it is. There's like a bad BIOS on this. I don't think there was though. Whenever my friend had shipped it, I don't think he put a different BIOS on it either. There are some optimized BIOSes that still seem to work a little better. So for the folks that are like maybe heard that you had just like this really optimized BIOS that the miners aren't taking advantage of the settings from it. There are some other tweaks. There's hex tweaks too, especially with certain types of memory like HBM2, where you can there's a lot more optimization when it comes to like HBM2 type of cards. Like so for the Vega 56 and 64 cards, there's a lot of like in-memory tweaks that you can do for specific algorithms that would really take advantage of it. So it looks like the latest, like the update of the driver plus the code 40 with the other, we fixed it. So you saw the steps there. I did the pixel patcher, and then I just tried to force a new driver because I couldn't tell if the driver that was on this computer was not picking up that RX 480. It did pick up the 580, but it looks like the driver fixed it for us. So we have possibly restored this. Let me see if I can run a miner on it real quick. It's an older version from February. And this probably doesn't have compute mode turned on, so we'll check the speed that it produces here. But 400 kilohash, it's definitely not running compute mode. 1 second. Let's go in here and change on compute mode. Should be under here. Graphics. Advanced. And GPU. Compute mode. So we had to switch on compute mode there. All right. Now let's see with that setting. Compute modes for AMD graphics cards, and it's targeted for the RX line of cards. So your RX 480s, your 470s, your 580s, your 570s, and your 590s all have the ability to switch the workloads to compute. And let's go into performance here. Let's go into tuning, and then let's go into optimize the tuning here. We're going to give this a little more juice. And let's see what these settings do. Probably need to do a full reboot, and it's going to take a minute for this thing to kind of optimize itself. But this GPU should level off at about, and I can smell it. It's been a minute. This GPU should hit around 28 to 30 mega hash. It's optimized, right? Let's see what she's at now. Right there. So if you see the tuning, it says that the tuning is complete. That's its testing of what would be equivalent, the same equivalent to the BIOS that it's using. So that's a memory injection that it's doing there. About 27 and some change on this. This thing should cycle all the way up to closer to 30 mega hash with the right tune settings. And I haven't obviously tested any of the memory speed. Sometimes the RX 480s, especially with specific memory timings, actually perform better with 2000 megahertz. This one's actually doing about a mid 27s, which isn't still too bad. It's not optimized for power performance yet. I would have dropped the core down to around like 1200 on this one or lower, like 1120 on the RX 480s is a good number on the core speed. And then you can drop your power limit by about -5 and you'll get some pretty good performance numbers out of it. So this GPU looks like it's running. It was actually mining successfully, even with the damage on the back of it. So Sapphire took the beating, my dudes. All right, let's pivot over here. And what I'll do is I'm going to try to keep this solid to an hour. So we're right about there. I'm going to go through and test the rest of these off stream because it's the same kind of testing. And what we're going to do is we'll do another. If you guys, there's 200 of you here. If you guys want me to do another live stream on building this after I test all these GPUs, we will build it together, cradle to grave, fresh new case, something you guys can see. And we'll just put all these GPUs in here and I'll walk you guys through configuration. We'll walk through some of the other coins that you can mine with some of these older GPUs. If that interests you guys, please drop a comment in here or down below after the video is posted and let me know. And we'll make that a live stream. That way you guys can kind of see the current 2021 version of doing something like this with some older GPUs and possibly damaged GPUs and trying to recover them and fix them. Let me know. I mean, these are going to be, I'd hate to say it, but these are going to be some of the ones from a mining standpoint that you guys are going to have the easiest access to as people start to divest from some of it. And if you're trying to crawl, walk, run yourself into some mining, the RX series, the 480s, the 470s, the 580s, the 570s, especially the 8 gig versions, is usually a much more cheaper price point to get you into mining without expending huge amounts of capital right away. And it gets you the experience to see if you have the tolerance to do GPU mining. And if it's not your bag, you didn't have this huge absorbent expense on this rig that you're going to be like, oh, you know what, this isn't for me. I tried it, and it's not. So, you can do stuff like RTX 3080s and stuff like that, but they're a much higher expense, and your ROI is terrible on them, especially right now. So, it's looking like quite a few people are. Somebody says I got a good tan. Yeah, it was a long weekend out in the out at the pool, so I tanned very well out there. How can I get a power and thermal throttling on i5? How can I get rid of power and thermal throttling on i5? If it's a 820 or 8250U, is that a laptop? I mean, you could take it apart and put like some thermal grease on it, like thermal grizzly. It will drop it down quite a bit. Are you going to talk about the pros and cons for dropping cards in liquid in your upcoming videos? Yes. So we are going to do a whole thing on the farm when it comes there. I'm going to be out at the farm to help Todd put a lot of that together as we're going through it together. This has been just an ordering nightmare with obviously all of the supply chain issues. We have the tanks, we have the flow plates, we have pretty much everything in besides what will be holding the motherboard. So we're waiting on that still, but that will be getting built with you guys present. All right, my dudes. So on that video, we'll make sure that we're doing some giveaways. Because I don't have the giveaway thing on here right now. I don't know if you do, Vanessa. Do you have it up? If you do, we can do one. If not, we will make sure we will have it officially for the next video, and we'll do some shirt giveaways. If you guys like this one. I got 99 problems, but a bit ain't one. This is one of our older designs. What happened to the rig? The rig was had a very bad issue with getting dropped or thrown or something. I didn't hear you. Do we have the mining or the giveaway software up, the Nightbot? If we don't, it's okay. We'll do it for the next video. Nice, Corey. Thanks for those kind words, my dudes. Nice to see you going old school with the rigs. 2060s at 6 gigs, 549. That's still pretty high, my dudes. 2060s, RTX 2060s should be like 330 at the most. Okay, so yeah, guys, we'll do the giveaway on the next video. We'll give away a couple shirts. We have several different sizes, so hopefully it'll be one that you guys can fit in or give to your wife or kids. Shameless plugs there. Awesome, my dudes. Well, we're going to wrap this one up right here at an hour. For anybody that missed the video, don't worry. Obviously, it's posted to YouTube. And we will have a TLDR for folks that don't have the tolerance to watch an hour-long video. So don't worry. We've got you covered. We'll get you straight to the core points of what I was talking about on the GPU, recovering GPUs that have been dropped or you haven't touched in a while, and or if you have purchased and don't understand like why you're getting certain errors that I covered tonight, we'll have that on there. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. And thanks to all my Twitch followers out there too. We're going to have a separate video for you guys in the coming week where we'll be just on Twitch. And